Today's episode of The Lore You Know is sponsored by Visit Braxton County, West Virginia. You can find the link in the description. Let me tell you a story. It's early July. You're on an extended family vacation visiting your grandparents who happen to live in Sutton, West Virginia. Following a few days of family activities, you and a couple of your friends have decided to go out for an afternoon to relax a little bit. Just hang out and catch up on everything that you've missed while you've been away from home. Before heading out to meet everybody, you go to say goodbye to your grandparents. Grandma gives you a sweet hug, and Grandpa gives you a hug, but then he follows you out to the front door. He leans in very closely and says, "Just be wary of hiking around these areas. I've heard a rumor that the old man of the mountain has been coming closer to town lately, and he doesn't like being disturbed." You shrug it off as best you can. After all, your plans don't involve hiking today. You and your buddies are going fishing at Sutton Lake. Can't possibly have any issues while sitting out on the lake, right? A couple hours later, after no luck catching anything, you all decide to take the boat closer to Sutton Dam. Anyway, you're all laughing and carrying on, music cranked to an obnoxiously loud level through your new Bluetooth speaker, when suddenly an unnervingly large splash puts a sudden stop to your fun, soaking everyone and everything in the boat. Looking up, you see a huge, hair-covered creature standing at the top of the dam, steadying itself with a log above its head, ready to throw another warning your way. You all quickly decide it's time to leave now, and maybe you should turn down the volume while you're at it. Did you know that Braxton County is home to the West Virginia Bigfoot Museum? You should go check it out sometime. And here's some stories similar to this and other sightings in the area. And also keep an eye out for the Bigfoot Festival that they have every year. And pretty shortly here, the Yeti Expo as well. Hello, welcome to The Lore You Know, a show where we chat with some amazing human beings who are storytellers, collectors, and folklorists as we discuss the history of, inspiration behind, and importance of recording and sharing regional tales. I am your host, Heather Mosier, and today I am talking to the creators of this adorable children's book that I love so very much, Mothman.
That's our book right there.
ABCs. This is it.
How'd you get that? It's not out yet. How did you get your hands on that?
Dude, I ordered it as soon as it was available to order. Pre-order, done right here.
Wow, look at that.
The only thing it's missing are autographs, so I'm going to have to fix that.
Oh, yeah, you will.
Hey, we'll see you at CryptidCon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, I'm bringing it to CryptidCon.
There you go.
With me today, I have the author of this book, Michael Schang, and illustrator, Danner Seyffer-Sprague.
You nailed it.
Nailed it.
Also, yes. I also want to say that at Cryptid Bash, I got this little guy on my hand. Danner put him on my hand. I wish I still had a picture of it.
I thought you were gonna say you got a tattoo of it. I was gonna be like, that's pretty extreme.
It was like a little henna thing.
Yeah,
okay.
It was a henna thing. Yes, Danner.
I was gonna say if somebody did that, Danner, would that be like free merch for life or something? How would that work? You know what I mean?
Oh, there would definitely be some royalties involved. Like, There's no way if someone actually wants to get a tattoo of my artwork, you better believe there are going to be benefits that go along with it.
Lots of hugs happening there. Yeah.
To be determined.
Yeah.
This will be something we can talk more about at CryptidCon. Is there going to be henna involved?
For sure.
In CryptidCon?
Oh God, ask Sarah and Kenzie.
Yes.
See what their next shtick is going to be.
Love it.
Oh man. So before we really get into a discussion of storytelling, I wanted to ask each of you individually. I will start with Michael. Can you share your connection or current role within the cryptid community to try to give people a feel of who you are?
Well, I am part of a podcast called The Moth Boys with my brother Matt and our good friend Jake, and we've been doing that for seems like forever, but it's been like 2.5 years. I think I'm not sure. It feels like forever, but so we've been doing that. We're a comedy podcast. We think we're pretty funny, but not sure how the rest of the world feels about us, but that's fine. But yeah, that's our input in this. We've been in this stuff for a long time, and yeah, so we just started a podcast during Mothman Festival of, I don't even know what year at this point, like the last one that happened.
2019 then.
No, the one before
Right.
I think
that,
it was 2018 is when
2018.
2018.
Yeah. Because we were like, how do we get a table next year at Mothman Festival? So we started a podcast and then we got a table at next year's. So it was 2018. So it's been that long. So it's been longer than that. I can't even, that's wild to me. But yeah, that's kind of how, I'm in the cryptid world.
Yeah. Danner?
Well, it's funny, doing an immediate segue from that. I am an illustrator, and I actually met the Moth Boys at their first booth at the Mothman Festival.
Yeah.
I've been following them online for a long time. Well, I guess for like a year at that point since they started, and I love their stuff. They were kind of a big inspiration as I was slowly like moving into the cryptid community. But I had always had an Instagram for a while where I was just sort of just throwing any goofy artwork I had done. But realizing that there was so much more of a community around it, I decided to sort of just pursue that and start working together on a bunch of projects with a couple other people. And it didn't really honestly take off until Mike had approached me after we had met and said, hey, I want to work on a book together. And so here we are.
Yeah, we were like instant buddies, man, weren't we?
Yeah, we
just
clicked super well.
Yeah.
So you can attest to whether the Moth Boys are funny or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that a yes?
I can absolutely say I was a big fan. Oh, come on.
Awesome.
The medium-sized branches. That
was pretty funny. That was a pretty good joke.
Danner, you have a shop, right?
I do,
Etsy?
yes. So now I guess I'm cutting out a lot of the fat with that description. I apologize. But yes, I've since launched my Etsy, everything on there. I have most of like everything that I sell in person, but pretty much the Etsy is running my life at the moment. So I can't believe how much it's taken off. And so really I am immensely thankful for everyone in the community that's supported me as I kind of have been up and coming with this. And I'm kind of glad that like the Moth Boys and I have kind of like congruently been growing at the same time. We both have roots in about the same years, kind of when we started taking off. So I really have all of you guys to thank.
Wow. We love you, dude.
Yeah,
I love you too, man.
Yeah, I really do, man.
Yeah, it was your Etsy shop actually is where I got my book. It was one of the pre-orders. So you mailed it to me. I remember.
Takes me back. It feels like forever ago. I can't believe that was under a year ago.
It was? That does feel like forever ago, but time is not normal anymore.
It's not.
It's insane.
It sucks.
Yeah. I'm always curious about people's first introduction to storytelling. And this varies from, a family member that could spin a really good yarn to a movie or a musical artist or anything like that. Michael, what was your first introduction to storytelling that really stuck with you?
That's a tricky question. My wife, Bonnie, and I were talking about, like, I was telling her, and one of the earliest books I remember like having was the monster at the end of this book with was it Sesame Street, I think. Yeah, that's one of the earliest books I remember having. But yeah, that's a good question, because I have no idea. I remember reading a lot of Shel Silverstein as a kid. That was a big thing for me.
But that was definitely a big thing for me.
Yeah. Dr. Seuss, of course, just that kind of stuff. Yep, Dr. Seuss. Especially when it comes to children's books, I think is kind of what that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I remember much in like school, but I definitely remember certain books from my childhood that stand out. And that was a big one. Just a lot of little silly kids books, So that's kind of what got me into storytelling, or a lot of those books were at my grandma's house in my head, I remember. So I'm guessing she read them to me. So
right,
she probably had something to do with storytelling, telling stories to me. The aspect.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Danner, is it a similar situation for you?
I guess mine's less media based and more based on the family I was raised around. My Uncle John actually is like really into a lot of the history of our family. And that half of the family that he comes from is pretty much rooted in Appalachia. and he is a ghost hunter and a Bigfoot hunter. And so going to like family gatherings when I was younger, we would just sit around and he would just go on all of these stories about all these sightings he saw, combined with all of the Appalachian folklore that like his family grew up with. So I sort of had that in my roots. And so it kind of felt natural when I started picking that up again a couple years ago and just sort of trying to tap into really like what made those family gatherings so interesting and so wonderful.
That's awesome. He sounds like a great uncle.
Oh, he's a jack of all trades. What a character. I need to get him on one of these podcasts.
No, you need to get him to a convention or something. Like have him
Oh
as
my
like,
God.
you know,
I
that'd
would
be
love
awesome.
that.
That'd be cool.
What part of Appalachia is your family from?
So it's we kind of moved in the early 1700s up from like the Virginias up into Ohio. And we were some of the first settlers. I say we, like I was there, but they were some of the first settlers to really put down roots down by like MacArthur, Ohio, in like the Hocking Hills. And so all of those like old furnaces that you can see out there, like that's my family. All those old mills, those were owned by my family. So born and raised.
I love it. Michael, you're in the same, I mean, you're in Appalachia as well. What's your tie?
Yeah, I was born and raised in the Western New York area. I think
Mhm.
I don't know if that is in the Appalachian
It
region.
is.
I live, yeah. So I guess like Buffalo area. I was raised out in the country, you know, with my siblings, and you know, all weird, all those, you know, weird Appalachian stuff you get into out in the woods, you know, with your friends and stuff like that. Bigfoot stuff and all that kind of, yeah, ghost stories. But and then I'm down here in Morgantown, West Virginia now. So that's where I
Nice.
live now. I lived in a few different places, but
Yeah,
yeah, West Virginia is home now. So
that's cool. So like even right now you live in two different, I mean, you were raised in two different areas, you live in two different geographic areas right now. And inevitably, just because of the nature of what you do, you kind of have different spheres of communities. But it all intersects right now, at least for this and other things that we're familiar with and how we're all connected is through the cryptid community. So I want to talk about that for a second, was the idea of community, because it's an important aspect for folklore to even one begin and then be shared, transmitted through these communities. I wanted to ask your opinion on what stands out about the cryptid community in general that adds to our ability to preserve folklore centered around monsters and high strangeness.
I'll let you take this one, Danner, first.
I think what is really central about it is the fact that it's all, not only is it a very specific niche interest that we all share, it's all a very open-ended interest. So it just breeds a ton of discussion. Like at any given point, you could get two of us in a room and be like, let's talk about this Nallygaster. And then we can all give our opinions on it because like all of it's rooted in speculation. So I think that's what's really, really fun of it. And the hard science that comes with it kind of forms a good ground for us to make our own ideas and our own stories about where these things came from. And I think sharing that and sort of like getting to see other people's perspective is really what does it for me.
That's gonna sound like a cop-out answer. That's pretty same with me as well. Yeah, yeah, same. Yeah, that's perfect answer.
Ditto.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So if we get into Mothman Learns the ABCs a little bit, you came together to create this book and you made a very specific choice. One was obviously that it's Mothman, but two, Danner creates these wonderful illustrations that include other monsters. So we've got the Grafton monster and Flatwoods monster and the Veggie Man. And yeah, in the back, I love that you have the little synopsis of each monster. So I wanted to ask, like, why Mothman? Why is he the one that learns the ABCs and not Flatwoods monster? And two, why did you choose those specific cryptids to showcase in this book?
Do you want to take this one or do you want me to?
You take this one.
Because I know, okay.
You take
well,
this
I know
one.
that the West Virginia folklore means a lot too. And so we wanted to keep it with the West Virginia scope.
Right.
We didn't want it to feel too like all over the place. It needed to kind of feel like, because to us, the Mothman is sort of like such a local legend. He's rooted in where he was seen, that it made sense that like all of his friends were like the idea that they were his childhood friends, and he's enjoying these things that a lot of us as children enjoyed with our friends. And so it kind of brought that sense of closeness together with like the characters. And I think we honestly just went with Mothman because he's such a good, well, like everyone loves him.
Yeah,
Like,
let's
you
be
have to meet anyone.
let's be honest, he's huge, right? I mean,
He's
so
huge.
like,
Everyone
yeah,
loves Mothman.
every
You
loves him.
can't
He's
you
like
can't find anyone who's like, oh, roll their eyes, or like, oh,
he's
you
a
know, Mothman, whatever.
you know, he's
Everyone loves him.
he's like a celebrity. It's weird, you know.
He's a
So
likable guy, and because
yeah,
he's such an enigma, he's such a good mold for so many different forms of storytelling. Because when you think of, I don't know, there are a lot of cryptids that are rooted in like such, let's take Bigfoot, for example. It's such a specific, like, Bigfoot is Bigfoot. We know this much about him. Obviously, it's a big ape critter. But with Mothman, it's like no one knows. He's just a black amorphous shape. He could be this cute little thing that's going on an adventure. He could be something that is this terrifying monster that makes for a great documentary. He's so flexible, and I really love that as source material, you can really just do anything with him. It lets you kind of put your own creativity into it.
mm-hmm. Which is wow, we can make him into a children's book.
Exactly.
Which is wild, you know. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
not that you couldn't do that with other cryptids, but
No.
it's just
I mean,
think
hell,
that,
man, you made Veggie Man into a children's book character, which was one of the hardest parts about that book, you know.
oh, it was. I have to admit, when doing the, I'll have to break out the archive for like some of those old sketches. I don't think I've ever released those to the public, but making the Veggie Man cute was a
Yeah.
feat for sure.
He's such a sketchy cryptid, you know what I mean? So like, yeah, horrifying stuff. But man, you made it work. So
I appreciate that.
yeah.
Why did you go the route of a children's book for this? Like, what was the reasoning behind a children's book?
I've had this idea in my head for forever. I've always worked with kids. That's kind of what my job has been ever since I got out of high school. Is, you know, I've helped kids and teenagers, and so I just I mean, yeah, working with kids and just always reading kids books and just going, what if I did this, that'd be cool, and just making something that I love. And, two things I love: working with kids and, cryptids, putting them together. So I think, yeah, that's what I think it and it works well too, especially with Danner's drawings. I think just, I'm not so sure that it would have happened without Danner. I had like this word vomit, texting him, just telling him I want to do this. Are you down to do it? And but yeah, I think that I've always worked with kids and always had appreciation for children's books. So yeah.
And I think that falls in line with what I want to do as well. Whereas I just like turning these terrifying critters into like campfire tales for kids and things like that. I think it was the perfect blend. I'm really glad that you and I kind of managed to come together on this one.
Is there going to be a follow-up to this?
You want to take it away?
I'll take it away. Yeah, there is. Yeah, there is. Yay. There's going to be a follow-up. Yeah, we've been. I've been thinking of ideas. We as the last book, the ABCs, we took our time with it. We didn't there's no deadlines on it. There was no we made sure that we were happy with what we made. I don't want to look back at a book and go, I wish I would have done that differently. You know what I mean? So we take our time with it. So we're just starting to get the gears rolling for Mothman Learns the Colors is what we're working on next. So yeah. So
yay.
Yeah. So yes, there's going to be a follow-up, and I hope a million more. So
yeah. Well, I'm definitely going to get it for sure. There's a whole avenue to go with these for children's books in general.
Yep.
That's exciting. So what's your inspiration behind your work in the cryptid or paranormal communities? And I don't mean just with the book, but in general, what you're doing with art and podcasting, like what started you in this realm?
First, my mom is into Bigfoot and UFOs. So starting off young, that's what she was into. And she's still an avid Bigfoot lover, and stuff like that. So, but also seeing the Mothman Prophecies, the movie, was a big thing, so that's a big one. that was an inspiration, back then, and just getting onto that weird stuff. I got into weirder and weirder stuff after I saw the Mothman prophecies, John Keel and all that stuff.
Rabbit hole.
Yep. And now the inspiration behind a lot of this is the cryptids. I think they're cool, but like you were talking about earlier, the community behind it all. It's just getting people together and doing things with them and being able to see them at events and doing interviews like this. And I think that's maybe the most important part of the whole thing now, is just being able to talk with people like you guys. And I don't know, that's a big inspiration for what I do, at least. So yeah.
Danner.
I'm gonna try to make this not as like cop-outy as I can, but
I had that. You have a cop-out. I had one earlier, you have one now. So
I mean, I'm right there with you with a lot of these aspects where it's the community works in such a great way as like to keep balls rolling, where once you get into it and once you start doing things, they kind of like, we all become each other's like personal cheerleaders, so to speak. And so it's really, really inspiring seeing this sense of community come together and really push for the benefit of others, and not just, it doesn't feel like a rat race to make yourself the top of the pile. That sense of community is actually kind of what inspired the Camp Conjured line of stuff that I do, where it just kind of felt like we're all sort of guiding together as this group, trying to educate people and introduce them to this very welcoming community that literally anyone is encouraged to join. And so obviously growing up, getting my hands dirty and hunting for these things myself, and surprise, surprise, I was in the Scouts too. Just doing that and then kind of finding this sense of community again, really kind of, I have to say that's my number one inspiration, is the community. As sappy as that sounds, and I know it's exactly what Mike just said, but it's just it's such a good community. I've never experienced this before.
It's kind of like when you find like it's like you find yourself being you're a weirdo, and then you find your other weirdos, and then you all get together and it feels good. You know what I mean?
You get your weird clique.
You do, man. It's cool. Yeah. So that's I love it.
Can you explain that Camp Conjured that you mentioned? What that is?
Yeah. So a subset of my work is kind of more based around like the outdoor aspect of a lot of these cryptids. I know I was mulling over some things last summer and like trying to think of ways to make my work a little more original, because at the end of the day, there are a ton of cryptid artists out there, and they're all absolutely great and they all have their own thing. But for the longest time, I kind of felt that like stylistically, my work isn't as complex as some of the others. Like I can make them as cute and simple as I can, but like I really felt like I needed more of a niche than that, but beyond just like visual style. And so I started working on more like, I put out a series of buttons back in the day that were all like protect the earth, there's no planet B sort of stuff, but they were all cryptid themed. And then I started Camp Conjure Dust as initiative to kind of blend the outdoor realm that I am quite immersed in, working at REI and things like that. I'm constantly outfitting people for outdoor adventures. And then my love for cryptozoology, I just found that there was such a bridge between the two. And so I kind of tapped into that. And a lot of products have sort of been based on that, getting people outside while also enjoying this folklore.
I like that a lot. I wasn't familiar with that. I mean, I'd heard the phrase, but I wasn't aware of all the intricacies of it. So that's awesome. I like the blending of the different communities and different aspects.
Yeah, and I think it's good because a lot of people in the community, I think, forget, especially now when we're still going through social distancing and COVID and stuff like that. Like I know it's starting to taper out, but it is kind of nice to be reminded that like the outdoors are still there. There's always something to do. There's always something new to discover. And so when I'm at these shows, like I've got the little Cryptid Scouts of America pins I like to give to all the kids that come around. I hope that it inspires them to get out and seek adventure.
One thing that another thing I wanted to bring up was that Cryptid Bash, the Moth Boys put on Cryptid Bash this last year, and it was amazing. The reception was great. Yeah.
Yeah.
First of all, you're doing another year, right? You're just
Next year. Yeah, next year.
Okay.
Yeah.
The idea of festivals, like what inspired you to have a festival to begin with?
Well, going back to the whole community thing, just having a thing for, we had lost Mothman Festival, and I know a lot of our friends, our artist friends, were hurting, and it was hard. It was a hard time, so we wanted to get everybody together. It was kind of an invite only type thing. So like it was all of the people that we, there are a lot of artists out there, and I would love to be able to help them all, but we got all of our buddies, and we all just packed into this room. You know what I mean? And just had a blast, and it was just helping other creators out. Is kind of just doing something cool. I mean, just helping people out. I mean, that's the answer. Just the community, and just like helping our friends and trying to see them do good, especially if they're hurting.
Well, you've also got the background in putting together shows like that.
I did. So. Yeah, that's true. I used to book shows up in Pittsburgh, like a lot of metal shows, and like I've been doing that for a lot of years. And
so don't sell yourself short. This is like what you're good at.
I've been doing it for a while. I know how to. I've been doing. But I've never done a cryptid event before. That was my first cryptid themed event, and that was the biggest event we've ever had. So
it was crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Awesome.
It felt really good to because you get the jitters like the morning of. You're like, is it anybody gonna show up? What's gonna happen? My friends are traveling. I'm gonna let them down. They're not gonna make any money. I was running around today just yelling at people, going, "You making money?" And they're going, "Yeah, we're doing okay." And I'm like, "Okay, good." So if not, I would have pulled out my wallet myself and just gave them, you know what I mean, just like bought stuff. But like, yeah, it was great. So it was better than great. Exceeded our expectations. So
yeah, and then some.
Yeah, and that's true, and some. So yeah, and I think that shows a lot for the artists too. I mean, we can put on the event and we can get all these people in a room, and there is work behind that, but the artists sharing the event, and that's just a testament to the artists, I think, too, and how good they are. So
yeah. And one thing that was really important, I think, was how much you guys utilize social media
mm-hmm.
in generating the buzz. It was for months leading up to that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody didn't know about Cryptid Bash.
No, yeah, we wanted to, like I said, we wanted to help our people. So we were shoving it down people's throats. If it annoyed you, it annoyed you. We don't care. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, scroll past it. Do what you need to do. We got sponsored by the paper. We got sponsored by a brewery. We reached out to people, and if they wanted to be a part of it, it was real positive. And social media does help, and we use that as a tool. It's a free tool for the most part. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So why not just annoy people with it? And I think that's how we got the turnout we did. You know what I mean? We just
kept poking,
and kept bothering people, and it was a great day. There's no complaint. The only complaint I have about the festival is probably more space for next year. I think that we had a lot of vendors, and we kind of undershot how much room we had in there. There's people outside and stuff. So I think next year either a bigger space, or we don't want to do that, less vendors. But so I don't know. But I think it's definitely gonna, or like, because there was some room that wasn't because there was extra there. The venue that we were working at there was some space that wasn't. They were moving stuff, and like, so there was more space. We just have to utilize it next year, I think, at Morgantown Art Party. So, but yeah,
I think we just caught them at a.
Yeah, we did.
I think they're like in the middle of renovating,
moving stuff. So yeah, it's definitely planned for there next year, and we're probably gonna keep it the same amount of vendors again, like 25 to 30.
Yeah, what was the final count on the vendors? I don't remember.
How many? By the end of the.
Because I know we did like the individual promotions for every single one.
Yeah, that was we did do that, didn't we? Yeah.
And so I guess in addition to promoting the event, it was also a really good job to give back to the community again and make sure everyone gets a little bit of a spotlight.
Right. So like,
that was really cool.
Maybe 30 vendors.
That sounds about right. I'm trying to remember how many of those little spotlight things I put together.
Yeah, 28 to 30. So we did separate ones. Like we did a Moth Boys one, we did a Conjured one, we did Mothman Learns the ABCs. Even though that was all at our own table and stuff like that. So, but yeah, there was probably 28 to 30 vendors there. So
if I were to say you have to switch roles right now, that Mikey, you're the illustrator, and Danner, you're the author, One,
boy.
what would that look like? What would the book be? And would we want it? I mean, like, what would it look like? Mikey, can you draw?
No, not at all.
I don't think you'd want any parts of this.
It would be a it would be a blank page with Danner's words just on below. Yeah, it'd be. No, I can't even draw it. I mean, because I had to describe to you what I wanted in a picture, kind of, didn't I? Didn't I kind of send you like I want Mothman to do this, and then
it was very like you were very specific with like the wording for everything. You're like, I want this, and like you kind of put everything into words,
right?
And you just kind of gave me like a little paragraph about what you think each page should maybe be, and then once we workshopped it a bit, then the pictures would kind of come with that, and then I would like at every step of the way I was like still sending you drafts and things like that.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is I think I have an artist's mind, I guess.
Yeah,
but I just don't have the artist's hand. You know what I mean?
The connection was definitely there. You definitely still had like a really good idea or like you had a really good eye for like, I guess like setting the scene. That's not the word I'm looking for. Composition.
Yeah,
that's a good way to say it.
It wouldn't happen. An illustrator. I can barely draw a stick figure. I know. Yeah. So that's my answer. It wouldn't happen.
You get the short end of the stick. All I have to do is come up with the letters of the alphabet.
That's
I
true.
know maybe I could do fine. No, not really. If I were in charge of actually putting it together, I think it would have been a little all over the place. I think Mike's direction was pretty good.
Yeah. Would you have chosen a different cryptid?
Oh, that's a very good question. I don't know if I would have. The only thing I could imagine changing, so like maybe I would have chosen like an Ohio cryptid, but I still think I probably would have gone with Mothman.
You have that Ohio connection. That's why, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like maybe I would have done like the Loveland Frog or something, but I think Mike wanting it to be completely Appalachian or completely West Virginian, I think that kind of like narrowed it down a little bit. I feel mine would have been probably a little more broad, but I think Mike having the vision for West Virginia is what really gave it such a cute niche.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, you're in West Virginia like all the time, so I mean it's like your second place, Danner.
I love it. I'm down there as often as I can.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I understand that feeling.
So it would. So I guess the answer is it wouldn't be the same book. It would probably really suck. Is what? Yeah. It would. Yeah. It wouldn't be fun. Kids would hate it.
No one would enjoy it.
You know. Yeah, that's good.
So what I like to do at the end is ask for stories, but I'm going to set you up with a scene first. So I'm not just going to say, tell me a story and just leave you hanging.
Okay.
Danner, I have heard that you are a fan of exploring abandoned locations.
I am.
Awesome. So imagine that we are meeting up at one of the spookiest haunted locations that's in the area. I mean, I'm in Ohio too, so it could be Ohio, it could be West Virginia. I'll travel. That has amazing ghost stories. Where are we meeting up, and what is the most prominent spooky tale that you can associate with this location?
I mean, if we're talking like if we're saying strictly Ohio, I don't think we could go without mentioning the Mansfield Reformatory. I feel that is an absolute must because I know very few people who haven't had an encounter there if they've done any sort of like overnight. Whether it's from like the sounds of like a rock being thrown or something rattling against one of the cell doors. And for anyone who doesn't know, Ohio, actually it's where Shawshank Redemption was filmed. There's an old reformatory in Mansfield, north of Columbus, and it's just like a hotbed for paranormal activity go on around there. But they do overnights there. It's expensive. I don't remember how much it is. I think it's maybe like $600 for like a group of people to stay there for like a weekend. But you're almost guaranteed to find something spooky because I don't know how to explain it, but there's something going on there for sure.
Yeah. Have you had anything happen there?
I mean, I just heard sounds the entire time I was in there. Like it just felt like there were people in there. I don't know how to describe it beyond, like, you know, when you walk into a room and you're like, it kind of feels like a liminal space where like there should be people there, but the reason it feels eerie is because they're not. It's just the energy's gone. It's the opposite of that. where you walk into a completely abandoned place and you're expecting it to be completely desolate, but for some reason there's an energy there that just, it still feels like it's alive. It still feels like there's stuff going on. It's like an empty, it's a room full of people without the people. It's really, really strange.
Mm-hmm. Are there any stories from Mansfield that have stuck with you that you've heard about, whether it's the ghosts that are there or experience somebody's had other than yours, or anything from the history?
I think some of the spookiest I've ever heard kind of fall in line with like the disembodied voices of people in like there's like an area of it where they kind of had all of the solitary confinement. And I've heard a lot of stories of like some like really really creepy disembodied voices coming from that part of the, like that wing of the reformatory. And I think that's really the spookiest, because I can imagine like just what agony those people went through. Because solitary confinement, I couldn't do it personally. Right. I just feel like that's a way to break a person. And so if spirits are truly, or ghosts or spirits like that truly have unfinished business or like tethered to this world against their will, I imagine that fits the bill.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, it's my favorite place, haunted place in Ohio too, is Mansfield. It's beautiful. I love the building, period.
It's gorgeous. And it's always so much bigger than you think it is. Like you see it from the outside, you're like, oh, it's huge. But like when you get into the like inner grounds, you're like, oh, this is like a city.
Yeah, it's very impressive for sure. All right, Michael, it's your turn. I'm gonna set you up here. We're back at Cryptid Bash in Morgantown. I come up to you and I'm like, listen, I got an extra day here. I'm staying. I wanna go see a place that has either a cryptid story associated with it or a ghost story associated with it that's within reasonable distance of Morgantown. Where would you suggest I go, and what is the story tied to that location?
All right, I have a few. I have like a little road trip you could take.
Do it.
So it starts in Morgantown, and then you hit up Grafton, West Virginia. You can go to Riverside Drive, where the there's not much there to see. I mean, there's a little coffee shop that sells like t-shirts, but you can go to the spot where the guy saw the creature, Riverside Drive. I don't know what it's called now. It's something else. But yeah, you can go on that. I like to go there and just like walk around. There's nothing there, but I'm just like, I like just like just being there, you know? So yeah, I would say hit that up first and then, just walk around.
Because it's very close to Morgantown.
Yes, that's it. That's about half hour from Morgantown, maybe. And then, so you keep going down, and then you hit a place called Lost Creek, West Virginia. And that's where a man named Gray Barker, he was a big UFO dude, but he was also kind of a prankster, kind of a silly guy. And I guess he did a hoax there with a UFO on a string, and Lost Creek, West Virginia is where that happened. I'm not sure the exact spot. It's on some farm, but he made this video and he tricked people with it, and like people believed it. And they're like, oh, it's the Lost Creek, UFO footage. So for a long time that was, and then eventually photos came out of him him and his friend hanging it from a string, and then but I like Gray Barker. I think because he worked on a lot of the big cases. He worked on Flatwoods case. He worked on Mothman. He worked on Grafted Monster, Veggie Man. So he did a lot of cool stuff, but he was a prankster, and he liked money, and he liked the attention. But I mean, so he did that. He faked this whole UFO sighting in Lost Creek, West Virginia. So you would go from west. So you go from Grafton down to Lost Creek, and then the last spot would be the Flatwoods Monster Museum, and it's probably all hour and a half from Morgantown, under 2 hours, I would say. So yeah, you can just go to Flatwoods and find all the chairs and do all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
What happened there? Why is that an important place?
In Flatwoods?
Yeah. What's up with that place?
This gal here, she was seen in the woods. She crash landed there. Yeah. And there's a whole museum that you have one too. Ready? Let's have them kiss. Ready? Mwah. Look at that.
I'll give you guys a room.
Yeah. So, I mean,
You guys should have some privacy.
There's a whole museum down there for Braxy here. Our pal Andrew runs, and it's like it's the whole. It's also like a visitor center for Braxton County, West Virginia. So that's how I would end the trip, and then go to a restaurant called The Spot, which is supposedly in where it all happened in Flatwoods, West Virginia, and get a greasy burger and some fries and a milkshake and go eat and then go head back to Morgantown. That's how I would end the trip. So
awesome.
with your extra day. So you probably have extra time actually. And then what else would you do with it? Come back to Morgantown and sleep, I think. That's how I would end the trip.
That sounds like a plan.
Yeah. So that's what I would tell you to do. So 3 pretty cool spots that I like to see whenever I'm down in the area.
You can maybe add Fairmont to it if you just wanted to knock off another cryptid spot.
Yeah,
not too far out of the way.
Yeah, there's not any really.
But there's nothing for that, like nothing Veggie Man related there.
There's not, but I know that my friend Les Odell, who is your first guest, right?
Yes.
He knows the family farm, where the family farm is of the hunter. So
I'm gonna put something together.
I know I'm gonna be hunting Les down for that information. So I want to go look at the farm.
Let's get in with him on that, because I would love to do some like promo work for that too.
Right. So he knows where the family lived, where the guy that saw it. So yeah, you could do that too. Go to Fairmont. Why not? Throw that in there.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
So that's a good day in West Virginia, I think.
That's perfect. Well, thanks for coming on. I want to know where we can find both of you.
You can find me, Moth Boys Podcast, on Instagram and Facebook, and you can hear us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and wherever you listen to podcasts.
Awesome. Danner?
And then I'm on Instagram, Conjuredust_designs, and my Etsy is just Conjuredust Designs. That's CONJUREDUST. And I update it pretty regularly, as regularly as I can. I've got a couple little irons in the fire with a couple projects. And so things have been slowing down a bit, but I've got a lot of cool stuff that I'm really excited for you guys to see soon.
Awesome. Well, be sure to follow Small Town Monsters on YouTube, subscribe, become a channel member, and you get access to all kinds of cool stuff, ad-free and before other people, and in 4K, because that's fun. Yeah. And if you want to hear me talk to someone else that you think I may not have on the list, because I've got a list, by the way, send me an email, heather@smalltownmonsters.com, or comment below. So thank you, and until next time.